Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the stream. It is Friday, March 5th. It is 7 p.m., and we are about to bring you something I haven't had on my stream before. It is the finals of the NEOS monthly event. NEOS stands for New England Old School. They are a club, obviously, based out of New England, Boston area, and such. And they have a pretty large monthly event every single month, webcam series. And, they asked me if I would stream their matches today, and obviously I am happy to oblige. Joining me today will be Seth Roncaroni, and he will be providing commentary with me on stream tonight. I appreciate everybody who is here. If you are new to the stream, thank you very much for being here. You can join me each and every week on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for my regularly scheduled stream. I play 3 rounds of Old School Magic with the Northern Paladins as part of the Tuesday night gauntlet. So don't forget to follow and turn on those notifications so that you know when I go live. Upcoming stream tomorrow evening at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. I will be playing my first match in the March League for the 7-point singleton. And then on Sunday, I have my second match, and that's at 1 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central European time. Now, with my match tomorrow, the reason for the 10 p.m. time is that my opponent is in Singapore. He is 13 hours ahead, so that's actually, while it's 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday for me, it'll be 11 a.m. for him over in on Sunday over in Singapore. So going to be bringing it back into the players here, and everybody, welcome to the stream. Again, we've got Seth providing commentary with me, and then we've got Brian and Rob playing against each other. So, Bruins, thank you for gifting the sub to Jerry. I appreciate that. Guys, one thing I did want to say is, number one, thank you for asking me to broadcast your match. Number one, and number two, also thank you for waiting for me to get back and get settled from my trip to Florida. That 2 weeks was definitely well needed, and I appreciate that you allowed me to be a part of this. So thank you very much as players. So I haven't seen the standings. So do you guys go by ranking, right? Who goes first?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So Seth and I are going to dip out of this room, and you guys can go ahead and start. So best of luck, gentlemen. Again, we're best 3 out of 5, so no sideboards for games 1 and 2.
Okay.
All right. Thanks
Rich.
guys.
Thanks, Rich.
All right, Brian. So I suppose I'll take the play.
Go for it.
Okay. Good luck.
Okay. So we have muted ourselves in their game, and we can go ahead and watch them start. And Rob is on the play. Seth, can you hear me? Okay.
I can. Can you hear me okay, Rob?
Yeah.
Rich?
Yep.
Okay, great.
So we're good. So it looks
like
like
Rob-
Brian is going to Mulligan first. So while they're doing that, I'm going to pull both decks up on the stream real quick. So why don't you talk a little bit about the decks there, Seth?
Well,
I know
we
that
can
you
talk-
spent some time studying them and whatnot. And the reason that I asked you on the stream is that I know that these decks are kind of your style. So
Balls to the wall, turn dude sideways, and just figure it out later.
yeah, pretty much.
And I think the difference in the decks is why Brian is going to progressively mull, because Rob has 12, just 3 essentially really good 1-drops here.
Mm-hmm.
The black lights could be just backbreaking. So he has having that insider.
Let's go number
advantage,
2
he's
on
gotta
top.
at least not get crushed by the vice.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But I think it's gonna be a really interesting match. I'm inclined to think that the tax edge player is slightly favored here, just because land tax just does so much to negate 8 of Brian's cards.
Right.
Which is really powerful. But again, like Sedge Troll is a monster, and Rob doesn't really have a great answer for that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Brian taps out, a bolt or a chain lightning or something along those lines, can take care of it. But chances are, if you're playing Sedge Troll, you're not going to be tapping out very often. So, but,
A Vice.
all right. Well, there it is, just like you called it. Vice on turn 1 plus a lion. So Rob's putting on some early pressure right now, which is definitely good for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's as good a start as he probably could have hoped playing a non-blue, all restricted cards list. And Brian has
5 in hand.
on a mull to 6, like starting with 2 mana, basically allows him to really negate
Yeah.
his black price for the rest of the game, which is huge.
Yeah.
6 cards in hand.
And Brian playing two permanents is decent, so that the theory is that he's going to be able to get out from underneath that Vice quicker. He's got a lot of 3 drops and 2 drops and things like that. So him being able to get cards out of his hand pretty quick is going to be pretty important.
I'll play an Orc.
What's interesting is he doesn't have Bolt in his main deck, so his ability to trade efficiently with these cheap creatures is hard, right? He has the swords and that's
I'll go
it.
up to 22.
Right.
And
As long as Brian doesn't see a land tax on the other side of the board, he can
your
really
turn.
just outmaneuver him during the match, right? Like he's just going to
I have
grind
3 cards.
with all those hymns, sinkholes,
Right.
Sedge Troll. Like that's just value.
I've got your volume maxed up, and the stream is still having a hard time
4.
hearing you.
Picking me up? Is this better?
Is yours?
Yeah. There we go. All right, and I'm going to mute the players too. So yes, that's definitely better. Thank you. All right, so Ironclaw Orcs. I mean, with the exception of say Atog, I guess it's the most efficient 2-drop in red.
Yeah, I mean that's I guess Dwarven Soldier, right? Is maybe slightly better if blocking matters.
Right.
But yeah, I mean the 2 drops in Old School are generally kind of subpar, right?
Right.
But it's 2 power for 2 mana, so at least you're not in the hole.
Mm-hmm. So do you think Brian might be holding back for a Vice or something along those lines? Or sorry, balance maybe?
Maybe there's it's hard to believe that he doesn't. Yeah, it's weird, and that's a Badlands, right?
Yes, that is a Badlands.
Yeah, sorry, the glare is on my screen. I can't really see that well. Yeah, I mean this is serious pressure, right?
Yeah, I mean 4 damage a turn plus burn backup. Yeah, definitely.
Right. And at this point, like hymns, hippies, most of his deck actually does nothing for what's on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So he really needs to sort of get like a Mox or a Lotus, or like you said, like a DT into a balance could do some serious work here.
Right. It's just Rob's just putting on so much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
All the burn, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, that's game. That Vice, and then the fact that that Brian didn't get to do anything, that was definitely pretty brutal. All right, so that first game goes to Rob. So we're playing best of 5. So that means that we're not going into the sideboard just yet. So we'll see if Brian can do a little bit better this time. We'll see how it goes. So it's going to take
I think
a
being on
moment
the
for
play allows him to sequence a little better too. Right?
Yeah,
so he can
definitely.
He can keep a slightly slower hand as long as it sort of like ends up with 2 mana and some sort of high value spell turn 2, because he's not going to just get decimated by the Black Vice.
Right. Yeah, that lack of removal in the main deck is probably, not helping him right now. But I mean, after sideboard, he's going to be able to bring in some other things, so that should help.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the sideboarding for what he's going to do is really fascinating because it's like, do you keep him in here, or do you just bring in the Bolt and the Disenchants and just sort of fight on that access?
Right. And then the common thing to do against aggressive decks is to take out Hymn to Torok, and the Mind Twist that's in the sideboard probably wouldn't come in because of the fact that they don't tend to do anything against decks that empty their hands so quickly. but with the land taxes and the winds of change, that kind of shenanigans going on, you never know what's going to happen with Rob's deck.
Yeah, it's weird because like because there's Land's Edge, not like because it's an aggro land tax deck. Like there is some real value in just aggressively hemming, because even getting those lands, while you inherently think like it's not the best use of your mana, it saves a lot of mana a lot of damage if he gets the Land's Edge down. So he only has 3 disenchants, right, in the sideboard.
There's 3 disenchants in the sideboard.
So I mean, he's really shields down in these pre-sideboard matchups, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like Rob has so many good 1-drop options, and here, even Vice isn't terrible, but I mean, a land tap for a Lion is just really great, and having 8 of those cards in your deck sets you up for success.
Right. So they have cut each other's decks, and it looks like they are getting ready now for game number 2. So now with both of these decks, I would assume that there should be some aggressive mulligans on either side, and it really depends on the person too. Some people don't like to mulligan, and other people do. Now, I mean, Brian didn't look like he had the greatest hands, obviously from what he did and didn't do in that game, but he's going in right now for a mulligan, which I think that he wants to make sure that the same thing doesn't happen this game that happened last game.
And like starting, it sounds really crappy, but like with the London Mall rule, starting with a hand of 6 against a Black Vice deck, you're kind of negating the Black Vice in general. So if he kept a Black Vice in his hand, you're effectively sort of like almost at parity there. The Vice is just really less impactful. So there's some thought that like it sets him up to sculpt a better 6-card hand versus like an average 7-card hand.
Right.
I know I personally don't ever do it enough, right? Like it's like I've got 2 or 3 lands and I've got like a first turn, second turn spell, so I'm like, it's good enough.
Right.
But with the London Mall, you probably need to be more aggressive with all these restricted cards.
Yeah, I think the London Mulligan was good for Magic in general, and it makes it so that with the sketchy mana bases for decks in Old School, that it makes it even more consistent, so that you can be more aggressive with those mulligans, so that you can try to play and not have those non-games.
Yeah. It also like, you're just penalized less now too.
Right.
Like, a mull to 5 really doesn't matter when you have balance or ancestral or draw 7s and stuff like that. So you actually get more interaction, which is nice.
Yeah, and for those who don't play Old School very often, you would think with dual lands and City of Brass and Moxen that mana bases would be easier, but they're not. They're not as consistent because you don't have like fetch lands or something along those lines like you have in Modern or Legacy. So.
And factories complicate that too, right? Because everybody's basically starting with, these guys are starting with 6 or 7 colorless lands in the deck.
Right. Blazer in chat, yes, sideboard only starting in game 3.
And here we go. We see Rob sort of like had one of those good 1-drops to start off with. But, Brian does have the factory, although it's really dicey because with 8 burn spells and disenchants, it's really hard to like sacrifice a land when you're a slower deck to block a Lion.
Right.
So I'd expect the Lion to hit a couple times probably, unless Brian has.
I would expect so too. Even if Rob doesn't have any removal for the factory, it's a bluff. It's like, well, if you have it, if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. That kind of thing. And that second factory obviously helps too. But it's like, okay, well, I'm going to turn my stuff in sideways, and what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Or he could just play another 2/2. That works as well.
I guess he might also just value the Lion and just having bodies as the game goes along if he has the removal. Because, at some point you have to get when you're on these burn heavy lists, he doesn't have Psionic Blast, so he's effectively got to deal about 10 or so damage with creatures.
Right.
City of Brass will help a little bit there, but you know, the creatures have got to start hitting face.
Another fun thing is,
Yeah.
you know, it's open deck list, so you know they know what
Mhm.
tricks are up each other's sleeves. Now, you know, there's that bit of chess match that's going to happen starting with game 3, but you know, like if Brian draws any of his underground seas, you know, Rob knows there's no blue in the main deck other than
Right.
a couple of pieces of power. So
Yeah, and like that's one of those things you just don't work, like Ancestral and Time Walk, they just happen, right? Like you can't really, if
Yeah.
you strip mine, you might cut them off of it, but you just assume sometimes you just get old schooled.
right,
But I think I really am surprised that Rob didn't put some more pressure on him to make Brian make a play there, because now like the game is, you know, he's getting in control, right? Here you go.
Here.
Sedge Troll, 4
Sedge
mana,
Troll, 3/3. He's got the mana up to regenerate if he needs to.
and you'll gladly pay 1 life to ensure that that happens.
Right. You know, and that will eat one of the, you know, the factory or the
Right.
the orc.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and I think
there's
Go ahead.
some merit here if Rob has a burn spell to play the burn spell pre-combat, so that it would tap the troll if Brian regenerates it, and then get in for 4.
yeah, because that basically is effectively 5 points of damage, which is pretty good.
Right, and he's not blocking anyway, so.
Right. Which is why, you know, this is why those 2 or like 4 damage you deal in those first couple turns that seem so inconsequential. Like now, you know, if that was the sequence, he could have him at 11, which is a whole different Magic game.
Gordon with the raid, thank you for bringing 15 people with you. I appreciate it. We are in game number 2 of 5, best of 5 for the NEOS Monthly League Finals. So welcome everybody from Gordon's stream.
So if you're Brian here, do you start swinging with your Sedge Troll, or do you sort of go defense?
You know, it's really going to depend on what he has in his hand. Like, he's played fairly defensively already, and I think that he'll continue to do that. Guys, thank you very much for the follows. I appreciate that. Ooh,
There it
Ancestral Recall. All right. I heard that's a good card in Old School Magic. So back when I first started playing Magic in 1996, I bought an Inquest magazine or a Scry or whatever, and I saw a picture of Ancestral Recall. I was like, wow, this is a really good card. I got to get me one of these. And then at the time it was $100, and I was, 19-year-old kid. It's like $100 is a lot of money for me. I guess I'm not going to get one. So here we are. It's a lot more expensive than that now.
Oh my gosh, I saw the price of CE stuff is just out of this world.
Oh, absolutely.
Now.
Yeah. I'm so glad that I got my CE stuff 2 years ago when I first started playing, and that I focused on the dual lands and power.
Yep, that's good for you, man. I feel so bad for people trying to get in now. I mean, I think at some point we'll be on proxies just because it's insane. But now I think Brian has to start attacking at some point.
Now I think he can. The orc can't block at all, so there's nothing going on there.
Oh, there it is.
Okay,
Sinkhole.
Sinkhole, one of the factories probably.
Yeah, it's nice.
All right, so in response, does he activate or does he activate and pump?
I mean, he has swords. I guess at this point, if he swords your guy, you're getting blown out anyway.
Yeah. All right, so activate the other one and then pump. Yeah, okay, so he's got a 3/3, which is fine. It could end up being a 4/4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable and defensible because, you know, if he's got the swords, you're dead regardless. So
Right.
Again, no attack though.
See, I would have attacked with both of them right there and, taken the 1 point to regenerate whichever one got blocked.
Well, you just have so much, and you know that Rob doesn't have, like, the banana stuff, right? Like, I guess he could wheel, Black Lotus wheel or something, but you don't have counter spells, so there's nothing you're really going to do.
Winds of Change. Okay, so Rob must not like what's in his hand right now. Alright, so Rob's going to get 5, and Brian's going to get 3.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, Rob really actually is the guy who needs the balance.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you balance is basically should be in every deck that can play.
Balance is just so broken. I stupidly
aggro
had it
control.
I stupidly had it in my sideboard when I was playing in the Derby. It didn't have it in the main deck.
So, I like when I played old school like in 2012, like when we first got exposed to it, and then I remember I wasn't really playing much when I got out of the army and was here in New York in school, and I met up with the sisters, and so I actually took Mano's temple list from, oh gosh, I don't know when it was, to the sisters event, but I didn't have a sideboard. I only had the main deck. So I went to the sisters event, that lion like temple-y thing, and there was no balance in it. And a couple times during the day, I tried a demonic tutor for balance, and it wasn't there. And I didn't realize that he had put it in the deck, and I didn't have a sideboard anyway.
Jeez.
And that was the last time I ever didn't put balance in my main deck.
So my first ever old school tournament, apparently I was playing Temple and didn't realize it, but I wasn't playing with the orders because I looked at the mana base and said, there's no way that I can cast these orders reliably, so why would I do that? And lo and behold, you know, that's a common problem for that deck in old school, is that Order of Leaper just can't come out on turn 2 often enough.
Yep. It's really not like a turn 2 drop, and I think that's like you have to just embrace the fact that you have this 2 mana spell that is really like a turn 4 play after you sort of like parry a little bit, and then it just is a mana sink as the game wears on.
Yeah. So that strip mine on the factory. So he's Brian's gotten rid of 2 factories, which is good. And then is he going to play a sinkhole? Yeah, there he goes. He's sinkhole probably on the white source. Yeah.
I mean, he does have land tax, so you know he's going to be making his land drops, but he's so far on his heels at this point with what Brian's doing, you know, and the Sedge Trolls are just beating face. I don't think there's many cards that he can get out of this.
Yeah, so
it's unfortunate.
He pumps, so he's going to take 9. Oh, there's a bolt coming. So the Iron Claw can't block anything. So.
Yeah, that's the worst part, is like he's got to also like, because balance is one of his outs, so he has to kill his own Iron Claw works to make it really good. And are the life totals 2 and 18? Is that what we're dealing with right now?
That's what it looks like to me. 2 and 18. Oh no, 22 and 18.
Oh, 22. Okay.
22 and 18. Yeah, it's a problem with 20-sided dice. Back when I first started, there were a lot of people who had 30-sided dice because of Swords of Plowshares. So, so I started at Ice Age, and it was reprinted in Ice Age. So, like, oh, okay.
I think all of the even those like thumb wheel life counters always went up to 32, right?
Yeah.
At the time, remember they had like the Ice Age, and there was like the Jester's Cap plastic one and stuff.
Yep.
That everybody had.
Yeah, and like there was the Inquest one. It went to 20 on one side, and then you flipped it over, and it would go up to 40 on the other.
Oh, the little wizard guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there you go, Bolt.
Oh, sorry, that was Scry, and then Inquest had the paper one. That was in there. That same thing, but yeah, the Scry counters were the metal ones with the little wizard holding the ball. But yeah, things are not looking good for Rob this game.
No, I mean the upside for us is we'll get a bunch of good Magic games back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. They go into sideboard matches tied is great for actual watching.
Yeah, it's definitely good for entertainment value. I prefer watching games when they go, matches when they go longer. So, best 3 of 5. Hey, if we can get 4 games in, then or even 5, that's great.
Yeah. And again, what we saw this match was Rob had the early threats, but they may not have matched up perfectly with what Brian was doing. And for whatever reason, he was scared of swinging in, and that allowed Brian to settle in, and then the Sedge Trolls just took over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could have been a different game at this point, but who knows? So yeah, DK in chat, a bit fun that the monthly restriction is only 2 strip mines. Yeah, well, I mean that's why we've got the Atlantic rules up there on the screen, because they normally only have 1. So That's why I didn't put it as a restriction, and it's a variance for 2 strip mines. It's an interesting dynamic. When I was first introduced to old school 2 years ago, it was EC, so 4 strip mines. But again, I saw Zebulon, thanks for the follow. I saw that mana bases were terrible in old school, and I didn't understand why everybody was cool with terrible mana bases. So I only played 2 strip mines instead of the full 4. So.
And that's probably not correct, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I won the tournament, so I mean, something was correct somehow, and here I am, 2 years later, streaming old school, once, twice, 3 times a week, or whatever. So, yeah, maybe it wasn't 100% correct to do it that way, but what are you gonna do?
Well, I mean, I think the 2 strip mines actually feels like kind of right-ish.
Yeah.
There's so many utility lands, and so like having some answers seems like you want more than 1, but 4 does seem fairly excessive a lot of times. But I don't know.
Looking back, I probably would have tried to play more, but hindsight is 20/20, obviously. But we live and learn. It's like there was a whole bunch of people, and there were only 2 people in the event who are actually old school Magic players, and the other 16 were not. And I was among the 16 that was not. So.
Yeah, so now we're getting to an interesting point, because he has 3 cards in hand, Rob does, and the Land's Edge is on the table. So they are kind of in a race, and he's going to be able to tax. Like, he'll never play another land this game.
Right, he doesn't need to, yeah.
His tech. So that he's going to basically just get 3 and 3, because I don't remember how many basics he has, but he should have enough to feed that guy for a while.
All right, so there's 8 more coming in, but yeah, like you said, Rob's got the land tax and the Land's Edge going, so
yeah,
another set stroll.
Yeah.
All right, so Rob's down to 8, and Brian's at 15. So Brian still is winning this race, but it could end up being close. That other set stroll means that Iron Claw Orcs isn't going to be turned sideways. So.
Right. So Rob needs something. Like, I don't even know what it would... Again, I think it's just balance, right?
I mean, balance is definitely a good thing here. He would pitch his cards to the Land's Edge first, and then cast the balance, going down to 1 creature on both sides and 2 lands.
Yeah, but outside of that, looking at his deck list, it's a little hard to see how he digs out of this. Chaos Orb's not enough. I don't think there's... I mean, maybe Wheel. Like, if his Wheel is what would be normally a bad Wheel, gives you, like, just a boatload of lands. Like, maybe that's enough to do something.
Right, yeah. Like, if he has a Wheel, then obviously he throws all the lands at Brian's head for 2 points apiece, and then wheels and hopes to get some more for lethal. Because right now, I mean, while Brian might be at 15, Rob has, 5 lands in hand? So that's essentially that Rob is at a Phantom 5.
Right. So there are some... He does have some out, but his lines are getting short. But it was like... I mean, this was a great back and forth, though, right? Because Rob had the early pressure, Brian stabilized, put pressure back on Rob, and then now it's sort of like this touch and go.
Yeah, and the thing is too that if Rob had attacked early on, this game could be over.
Yep.
All right, so that brings Brian down to 12. All right, so now he's doing 8 to his face, bringing him down to 4.
Chain Lightning? He's 2 cards still, so...
Yeah. Alright, so he probably is going to wheel here.
Wheel.
And I mean, that makes the most sense. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
You called it. Alright, so he just needs to get 2 lands here. Another
Wild.
land tax goes in the pile. All right, let's see what happens.
And again, this is like, you just saw the value of the land tax. He was fairly far behind, but land tax was still able to take over and do some real work.
He's already played a land, so if he has, burn spells, it doesn't matter. But 2 lands here, and the game is over. And if not, then the game's over the other way.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
he did not get it. He
One
got
land.
1.
Wow. What a game.
Yeah. All right. So Brian made it a game, made it a match, and then Rob got really close. And it all comes down to that one attack.
Mm-hmm. It's wild. Because I do think that lion gets through. I just don't see there's any way that he chances sacrificing the land at that time.
So now it's 1-1, and now we get to sideboard. So that's the fun part here. So in Rob's sideboard with the towers, the offerings, the red blasts, and the swords of plowshares, we'll just ignore city in a bottle because it's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like. I mean, does he go for the long game with the towers and the swords? Or
I mean, the swords are definitely coming in, right? Because he said trolls are just backbreaking. I don't know how good the orcs are here. I don't know if he goes sort of like a burn strategy, go to the throat. I mean, this is when Black Vice is still reasonably strong, because he is on the play this game. So he might swap out the vices with something else. But I think he has to bring in the swords, because we just saw that, the Sedge Trolls just danced all over his face there.
Blazer in chat is asking why wasn't he dead when he was at 4 when there was a vice on the table? Because Land's Edge allows you to discard any card. And any player can do it. So he could have easily just dumped down lower than out of vice range, and if he had lands, he could have chucked them or whatever.
Right.
Rob didn't give him the opportunity to do that. He just conceded. So
I mean, maybe he does bring in the Ivory Towers. I don't know. What would you do here? I'd probably go for all aggressive, but that's, I don't know how good the Ironclaw orcs are, personally.
yeah, if I were Rob, I would bring in some number of Ivory Towers and Swords of Plowshares. I don't think that Brian's going to keep the hymns in. It doesn't seem like he should.
Right.
I think that the Ironclaw orcs might stay. I don't know. The orders of the Avid Hand really aren't that scary if all he has are the Savannah Lions. But
Right.
I think maybe playing the Tax Tower game is a good way to win against Brian. And then the 4 swords can take care of the threats, but we'll see what happens.
Is there a world where he brings in a Divine Offering or 2? Because Brian does have 2 Suchis, 4 factories, and I mean he can mana deny him.
Man, a Divine Offering on a Suchi when there's no factory on the table is just awesome. I think that maybe the Divine Offerings could come in just in case that does happen. And, they're obviously not bad against factories as well.
Right.
Especially against factories because they don't gain any life from that.
Yeah, and then, I don't think he worries about Disc. I mean, Disc is something because it does clean up his enchantments. So that would be the other thing to worry about, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think Brian's list sideboarding, I don't know if the sinkholes come out, but I agree. I think the hymns have to come. Hippie's in this weird spot, right, where it's never really good against the 8 vault lists, but he kind of needs some dudes. And
right.
Hippie does disrupt one of the axes that Rob might be on. So I think it's probably reasonable to keep it in because you just need bodies.
And some people might disagree with me on this. I think that the Brain Geyser needs to come out in this matchup.
Yes, it's too slow.
Yeah, I definitely think that is too slow. Like, obviously, when it's good, it's going to be good. But, there's going to be way too many times that it's not going to be good. Right. So, The bolts, I think the bolts would come in if he takes out all of the hymns. He could put in the bolts. He can take out the brain geyser for the third
Disenchant.
disc, maybe,
Or-
and then the disenchants need to come in somehow as well.
He probably
So-
takes out a shiv too. I don't
Yeah,
think
Shivan
like,
is
Shiv
just.
probably
I mean,
low.
it's a little win more in this matchup. If you've got the Shivan and you land it, then chances are you are already going to win anyway. So
Yeah. He also might shave a sinkhole. I'm not sure how. Like it's okay because it does kill factories, but like you need to fight land tax. You don't want to activate land tax ever.
right.
So he might just shave the two, double black spells and add in cards that are more impactful in this matchup. So that's what, like, I actually thought the sideboarding when I was looking at these lists beforehand was really interesting because, Sinkhole is still really good because they are both running 4 factories, but it's hard to see, or I just don't understand. I don't know how they would do it.
Yeah.
I think there's a few ways you can approach it.
Yeah, I mean these are really good decks, and it's not very common that you see a build like either of these.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way they're constructed. So
And I like Brian's like diversity of threats with like the double orders and the 2 Suchis, because he's kind of spreading out and he has a little bit of protection against like things like the Abyss,
Yeah.
which you don't. These lists sometimes struggle a little bit against the Abyss. So the Suchis. I don't know if that was a price consideration, like he didn't have Jazams or what went into that, but it is interesting to see because it's a nice variety.
all right, so Rob drops the lion on turn 1, and then Brian goes with a time walk. So he's just going to try to build up
Pretty
his
good.
resources
Yep.
here. It's probably just going to end up being like an explorer where he just gets another land. But I mean, Brian could end up playing something like a troll or a hippie right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good start for him, especially not seeing a Black Vice. So you just develop your lands. He wants to get to 4 mana. He's halfway there now.
Okay, so what are we seeing here? Probably a hippie.
I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
there we go. Yeah, with all the burn that Rob's running, even if he had a troll, I think waiting for one more turn where he can protect it is the best
Mhm.
thing.
Yes. Yeah. And again, like this is leading with the hippie is not terrible because if Rob only has a source of postures, he might be incentivized to blow it up, right? Because you can't lose all your cards in your hand. Didn't matter there, but
Yeah, there's the
Um,
bolt. I heard bolting
eating a
hippie
sword.
was a good thing.
yeah, I mean, just killing it any way possible, right? There's the factory again.
Okay.
Hmm?
Yeah, and there's the troll.
Basically,
And that makes
as you
sense.
screwed up.
Yeah. Okay, so
And so now here, hope this is where Rob has to hope that he has a swords or something.
DK says a bit funny you play the second land after combat. Well, I mean that could be part of the strategy of just making it that you don't want your opponent to think you have certain things going on. So, all right, we're gonna see an orb flip here.
Do they agree to gentlemen's or are they actually flipping? Oh, they're flipping. Okay, good.
All right, so Brian does the right thing by regenerating the troll in response, because once he chooses his target, no going back.
I think he has to go for the scrub land though, right? Like, I mean, it neuters the set troll.
Yeah, I think that's
Brian
a
on
pretty
having
good,
a swamp.
a pretty good call. Rob stood up and he's still trying to decide.
I mean, that is the one thing he can do is Brian's deck is fairly greedy in the double black department. Well, unless he sided some of that stuff out, but
All right, there goes the scrub land.
now how many cards does Rob have in his hand? Like, is it 3?
It looks like there are 3.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. Rob's playing on Wi-Fi, so his connection isn't the greatest.
Okay.
He did switch to a different to his 5G connection.
Okay.
But
And I love Brian attacking here. I think
yeah.
that's really just great.
Yeah.
Putting pressure. Not
I mean, it
letting
makes
them run.
sense. You know, might as well get in there for 2.
No. And that was it. So he didn't have the land.
Nothing. All right. So, and Rob can't crack back here.
Nope. Well, I mean, he could, because again, like we talked about last game, like if he has a disenchant, right?
Right.
I guess that is the beauty of playing decks when there's no counter magic, right? Like you just know you have free range to do what you need to
Right.
during your turn.
I have to say, I'm really jealous of Brian's playmat. I need to order some of Melissa Benson's playmats because she has some pretty cool art.
Yes, she does. I think she also is. I can't remember if that was who Paul was telling me. She sells all of her artist proofs like through her website,
Yes,
and they're reasonably priced. Also,
they are. I got my Chinese black bordered Shivan through her when they were at $50, and then like a week later, she upped the price to 200 across the board, and she sold out of Shivans now at $200. So.
it is a Shivan, right?
She only had 4th edition left in multiple languages, white bordered, and Chinese and Japanese black bordered. It's like, okay, I mean, I grabbed one for $50. I figured it was good, and then yeah, she raises her prices as her stock, as her quantities go down. Then you have some artists who pay attention to the market on the regular versions of their cards. For example, Anson will pay attention to the price of the normal version of the cards, and he'll adjust the price of his APs accordingly. Minimum price on any of Anson's, I believe, are $30 though.
Yeah, Amy Weber sells a bunch on eBay.
Yeah, she does a bunch on eBay, and she prefers to do them only on eBay for her own protection. I guess she's gotten burned in the past, so that's why she only does it through eBay, so that she's protected as a seller.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you don't want the artist to suffer, and her art's fantastic, and she's fantastic to deal with also.
There's the land tax.
Thanks.
I was fortunate enough to get a pair of pixies for $50. And they weren't from her. It was somebody else was selling them. It's like, okay, well, this is amazing.
Oh, disenchant.
And they were a panorama on the back between the two. Just basically extended the arch that is on the front of the pixies, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, her artist proofs are fantastic. I was really fortunate. Like I think last summer, I picked up one of her archaeologist artist proofs, and she redid the art on the backside. She's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love her. Her style's
she
weird.
had the Concordant Crossroads up there for a while, and it was, this whole COVID thing has made it so that finances are a little tight. And then once money loosened up a little bit, it was like, don't have that artist proof anymore. It's like I can't get it. It's like I would have loved to have gotten that Legends Concordant Crossroads.
Yeah. So now this is getting interesting because, I think Rob's still really on his heels right here. Oh, there's swords.
There's swords, all right. I mean, the fact that the troll was only 2 and has only been 2 for a couple of turns, Brian missing some land drops obviously has been hurting him.
I think Rob was forced to sword it though, even though he could a swing with a line and get the factory, just because, there's no other way for him to get rid of the sedge troll.
Right.
So he's kind of forced into a suboptimal position where he wasn't able to get any damage in.
Mm-hmm.
On the lion? No? Oh yeah.
I always feel bad when I have to bolt something with only 1 toughness. It's like a waste of the 2 extra damage.
Isn't that's the whole reason why Script Sprites are great, right? Because nobody ever wants to bolt them.
Right.
And they just keep swinging. And mono green has been everywhere lately.
Yeah. Even there's been mono green in Alpha 40 a lot recently too. So.
All right, so I mean, at this point, Rob really needs something. It'd be interesting to see what he actually has in his hand, because his curve's so low, and if he had reactive spells, you figure he would have been firing them off for stuff. So I don't know if he's just holding chain. Oh, okay, maybe that's what it is.
There's a change. You know, I really wish that we could do rabbit cams so that we could see the players' hands. It would be so awesome.
Right, because you just sit here like some knucklehead just talking about what they're doing and question the decisions, but he could have just been sitting on 3 lands, right?
Right.
And he's just really, really terrible at that point.
Adam Mercado's in chat. He says, always bolt the lion, always bolt the flying man, and always bolt the sprite. And then the MyG DK, that's why one should always play Desert. Way underrated card in old school. Yeah,
yes,
in Paladin Magic, deserts are everywhere. And I play Paladin Magic every Tuesday night on my regular stream. So, yeah, desert is commonplace there. Scimitar. Yeah. Dancing Scimitar, 1/5 flyer for 4.
Well, in the Paladin's Magic, because of it's a fairly restrictive list, right? Like they removed a bunch of the broken stuff. So are things like Kaboom Jump Witches like viable there? Or are they just still too slow?
I mean, yeah, the witches are viable. Like, I mean, it's a creature centric format. So a lot of creature strategies are viable. Tron is a viable strategy. I haven't played against anybody playing Living Lands or Living Plane, excuse me. But I would think that would be viable. But I mean, Living Plane is not one of the greatest cards in old school Magic, but it is something that is fun. And the Paladins allow for proxies, so I'm surprised that nobody has brought in a Living Plane deck at any point. But
see, that was odd sequence because he had the removal spells for the factories, so it just doesn't. Maybe he must have just drawn them because he was just hanging back with that lion for so long.
Yeah. There's an order. It's a painful order because he had to take 2 for it, but when Rob doesn't have anything on the table.
Yeah, I mean the order's pretty good here, right? How many bolts? He's played 2 lightning bolts, and is there 1 chain in the library?
Yeah, 2 bolts and a chain.
Yeah,
and obviously, he's got some lions left, and which the order doesn't care about. And he probably has Swords of Plowshares in his hand now because there's a pro white creature on the table.
Yep.
That's how it works.
And again, you're seeing like Brian has like diversified his threat, so Rob has to be very particular about how he uses his removal and sequences it because certain pieces of removal just are garbage against certain creatures.
Yeah, DK says, I just played against the Living Plane deck, and it's fun. I mean, it can be fun to pilot, and it can be fun to play against. If you have things like Castle and Pestilence, which I had an opponent do that against me, which was pretty awesome, not going to lie.
So Paladins is 100% proxy?
Yeah, it's 100% proxy friendly. I mean, I don't
great.
use proxies on the stream very often. I did this past stream on Tuesday because I don't own Juzoms, and the deck that was submitted by David at SK Altered had 4 Juzoms in the sideboard. Excuse me. So I proxied those, but I try not to use proxies on the stream. The viewers tend to like seeing real cards more than proxies, so I'm not.
So you did keep the hymns in, also.
Yeah, the hymn is still there. That's wow, and it did something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at this point, I think Brian's fairly heavily favored.
Those cities, wow.
Because Rob has very few ways to deal with an order. I'll just slowly eat up his life total.
Get in there. All right, so Rob goes down to 7. Brian's still at 11. All right, now Brian's got that factory. additional pressure he can put on. Fascinating in chat said, I once proxied a cockatrice. Damn UPS. Yeah. Oh, I hear ya. I hear ya. If I was waiting on a cockatrice, I would go down to, one of my local game stores and just grab one for a quarter or whatever, because I'm sure they have a 4th edition cockatrice that I could pick up. So that jet was pretty nice because now he can pump the order with only taking 1 damage, but it brings Rob down to 2. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I don't. There's probably actually nothing he can do to get out of this. He could wheel, and that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. So lion and 2 lands. All right. So Brian takes that one.
Do you think they changed their sideboard strategy up? I think Rob might bin the vices at this point and bring in the towers or something.
Yeah, I definitely like the towers.
Although now knowing that Brian has the hymns in his deck, would that change your line of thinking?
It's such a chess match. That's what I love about the open deck lists. Do you think Brian kept the hymns in expecting the towers? Maybe.
It also may have been that he just, sometimes you have your deck, there's cards that are suboptimal, but they're not terrible, and you just don't really have anything better that you want to necessarily bring in.
It was like
So
that him isn't great in this matchup, but I mean we saw it was a late game draw when Rob had almost no cards, so it's like
that's value. On the play, like he might have the mocks, right? So you could fire off a first turn him and just decimate Rob's hand.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the Mox Jet is huge in this matchup because of the hymns and the hippies and the orders. Yeah, and once again Rob didn't have much mana going on, so
I don't think we're going to see him have much because he's living on the land tax. So I don't think you'll. If they're not factories, I don't see more than 3 lands in play ever.
Right.
On his side.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for him to have too many on the table.
Right. Because all the extra lands turn into value spells when he wins a change anyway.
Right. Or they turn into shocks to the face, with a Land's Edge. 3 copies of Land's Edge is a lot of copies of Land's Edge.
Is that how many of these decks usually run? That's what we were talking about before. Like, this is like, taking me back like 5 years when you saw these lists. I haven't seen one in a long time. Most of the land tax lists are more controlling now.
Right. When I played Tax Edge, I was only running 1.
Okay.
Bruin says in chat, Unlimited Shivan Dragon is one of my top 10 favorite old school cards. So yeah, I mean, Shivan Dragon is awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong. Shivan Dragon was the first card that I ever had that got stolen from me. So, but 3 Land's Edge. I think is. I mean, honestly, in this build, I would probably only go for 2.
Okay.
But when I was playing straight Tax Edge, I was only playing 1. But it's playing obviously things like Rainbow Veil to almost guarantee that your land tax is gonna get you the lands, and then the control elements. Basically like a parfait combo, plus other things. So who knows?
Are you 5 color in that list? Do you have like DT and stuff?
I was 5 color. Yeah, the only green was for 1 regrowth.
No Selden?
I did have Sylvan. I think I had 1, maybe 2 Sylvans, now that I think about it. I can't recall. I don't have the list in front of me. My phone isn't in arm's reach.
No worries. Sylvan's such a great card.
I really like Sylvan Library. I don't know if 4 is too many. I think maybe a playset might be... I think a playset of Sylvans might at max be 3, but...
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a deck that runs 4. That sounds super greedy.
Like even in Atlantic Gentleman Twiddle Vault, I don't think 4 is the right number. 2 I think 2 is the right number there. The only reason I played 3 last week is because I was playing Enchantress. So,
Okay.
where obviously they're an enchantment, so they can get you something. All
Both
right.
guys kept Rob start off the line again.
Yeah, that's a good start for Rob. He gets the kitty on the play again.
I wonder if we'll see him be more aggressive with the attacking now, since he, has to really. I think we've seen that, like, if he doesn't dictate the tempo of the match, he's always
Oh,
behind.
there's the Jet. What are we going to see? Are we going to see an order here?
Him.
Oh, it's a him. Okay.
And he just put his hands.
All right. Well, I mean, at least Rob put a threat down on the table before that. So, with 5 cards left, going down to 3 isn't as terrible when you've got something going on. But
Right. And like he doesn't need many lands, right? So he already has his red white, so he
5 and 3 go away. What are we missing? Ooh,
the
2
two
burn
good ones.
spells.
Just saves 6 points to the face.
No love for Psychic Purge.
So he must have just drawn the vice, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming he just threw the Vice because obviously the Vice is the better play. It's going to deal damage outside of combat. But the fact that Brian played 3 cards, he's only taken 1 point from the Vice.
Yeah.
And then he can duck under the Vice on this following turn.
Yep. But Rob does have decent pressure now. Like,
Yeah.
he's got a presence on the board, and he's 1 or 2 cards away from, keeping that pressure going for a couple turns. I think if you're Brian, you just want to just make a land drop and maybe have a bolt. Well, that would be good too.
DK in chat says, I rarely hit the minimum 60 card decks. Question to all, how often do you go over like 61 plus in the main? Well, if you ask a bunch of the guys from overseas, there were people playing 64 consistently with copies of the deck in the Derby. So, I mean, it worked for them. Obviously, you decrease your consistency with the more cards that you add. Yeah, Simon was one of them. And I played 61 on Tuesday, and I used to play 61 all the time, no matter what. But I find myself trying to be right at that 60 mark pretty much every single time I play. Unless, last minute I forgot something or whatnot and don't want to make a cut. It's out of laziness, not out of necessity.
Yeah, and sometimes getting that random, because a lot of people add a random card, and so I know that math doesn't support it, but just having access to a random card, that disenchant's
That was
backbreaking.
nice.
The double him into the disenchant really decimated what Rob had on the table.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what can happen because... Oh, jeez. Might as well. Let's hit
Three
again.
hands?
All right, it's a disenchant. Okay, so Rob's in top deck mode. Yeah. So,
But again, there's lots of rips though.
yeah. Oh,
Not
Chaos
bad.
Orb is nice. Yeah, it's definitely difficult to go back once you've consistently gone that high. Disenchant on the Chaos Orb. Gotta love it. Might as
Yeah.
well have all the answers while you're
Yep.
at it, right, Brian? But yeah, mathematically, it doesn't. In theory, mathematically, it seems incorrect, but
It's marginal.
in all practicality, having access to those extra cards, as long as you have the mana to cast them, and with all the card drawing that is available in old school Magic, especially if you're playing the deck, then maybe 64 is correct on some level.
I mean, you're just less likely to draw Mind Twist, Library, or Ancestral, right? So
Right.
that seems not right.
I mean, if you're expecting to play against control decks, I guess that 64 would be the right answer, right? Because if you're playing against control decks, then there is a good chance that you guys play a match long enough that you're going to, be able to take a new deck photo. So,
Yeah. I don't. You played in the Derby, right?
yeah.
I didn't. I think I only played the deck twice.
I played it once, I think.
Yeah.
I think I played it once, maybe twice. I was kind of expecting to play it more. I was playing Urnham-Geddon without the Urnhams, but
Okay. What was your creature? What was your big fatty of choice then?
oh, I had Dibs and Sarah's,
Okay.
and then I had one copy of Argothian Treefolk. Oh wait, no, sorry,
Okay.
Wormwood Treefolk. My fault. The one from the dark that can get
The
Forest
Forest
Walk or
Walk?
Swamp Walk. Yeah.
All right. That's a thing. Was it good?
I mean, it soaked up removal spells every time it hit the table, and it was
All right.
good. It was a good card to choose to sideboard out almost every game. I mean, it had its purposes.
Have you ever tried if biffs in those shells?
I have in Paladin Magic, yes.
Okay.
I love If Biff Freed. It's one of those cards that, I've had a thing for quite some time.
Hurricane Man. It's a great effect.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're playing white and you can put a Spirit Link on it so that they take 1 and you gain 2. So, Fascinating says, are there known decks that could consistently defeat the deck? Yes, there are a lot of decks that can consistently defeat the deck.
I mean, I think Lion Bolt Dibs are probably favored.
Yeah, Lion Bolt Dib, and then Dreams. Yeah, 'cause Underworld Dreams is just so huge against a deck that wants to consistently draw cards.
What do you think Brian DT'd for back? Do you think he took the factory just to make his land drops? The last turn?
I think he might have, because it's not only is it a land drop, but it is a
Wheel. This is now.
that was
got
a nice
win.
wheel, making Brian get rid of 2 swords. Yeah, because obviously they're not just land drops; they are also threats.
Yep. And he knows that, like, he's gone through a couple disenchants now, so his odds of getting rid of them go down, right? Because like the bolts, because Chain Lightning does nothing.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Rob's got a factory of his own.
Deal some damage with his Vice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I mean-
Brian's not explosive too, so like he can't
Right.
rapidly empty his hand, and he can't double tap the black sources. He has to
Mhm.
keep the Citadel alive. So, oh jeez.
Okay, he's gonna get under the. He might get under the vice here with something else played. Oh, I mean, Brian's down to 12, and Rob's at 22 because of an earlier spell. So not out of the woods yet.
No.
That wheel was pretty good.
What's the reach of burn, right? Like as long as you can get him down to like about 10, some of the draw 7s, brain guys, or things like that can instantly get you back in the game, because there's no way a player has enough counter spells or him to charge, whatever it is, right? Like to remove those resources from your hands, and
Right.
you just outlast them.
Strip mine to get rid of the factory. Okay, gets rid of a blocker basically.
I think you just send the team and speed the clock up.
Yeah, it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, might as well like turn both the Moxen sideways to activate both factories and just get in there.
Although, how many is Brian down to 5 cards in hand? Or just that?
Let's see. He drew up to 8, played 2 Moxen, brings him down to 6, and now the troll brings him down to 5. Oh, the strip mine brings him down to 4. Yeah, so he's under the vice now.
Okay. Is it time walk? That's what.
Yeah, okay, yes. Okay, so. Okay, so now we can keep under the vice, and he's got a lot of pressure going on, which makes the a balance a little bit less effective now.
Yeah, I mean it's still going to be.
It's still going to be good,
great.
but You know, when Brian has 3 cards against Rob's 7, and
that's,
if Rob plays a
it's
land, that means that he's got to contend with, you know, obviously factories would stay on the table, I would assume, because of the 2 Moxen.
Well, he probably keeps 1 swamp to keep the set trolls at 3/3s. So you'd kill 1 factory, I think.
Right. Well, he could, if...
He doesn't play a land. He would rather bin the land from his hand, I think, at this point.
Yeah, if Rob plays a land, then both factories and the Badlands should stay because of the fact that Brian has access to white with the Pearl.
Yeah.
But if Rob doesn't play a land, then yeah, 1 factory goes, and so does the scrub lands.
Mm-hmm. And again, like you see, when Rob wheeled, as good as like the wheel could have been, running fewer restricted cards and fewer of the jewelry like that, it's just harder to really leverage that card to wheel and then go bananas.
Oh, okay. So look at Rob's mannerisms right now. So he's basically trying to figure out if he should balance. Is what he's telling me with his hand motions, with what he's done by separating the cards in his hand or whatnot. But maybe not. Land tax, okay. Land tax. All right, so he's trying to get value before he casts a balance. Yep, there he goes. Okay, so all right, so Brian should float some mana and then keep both factories and the Badlands, and then activate the Chaos Orb after the balance resolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised if he gets rid of that Badlands, because I would think that he would want to keep the red up.
Because he doesn't have, unless he wants, he does have double black spells, right? So there might be a world where he actually just sacks them. That seems terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the pressure of 4 damage a turn.
Right.
With the factories. If he wants to keep the double black, then he's got to get rid of a factory. Yeah.
I wonder what Rob had in his hand, because I still think that like getting the extra land would have been better than making another land drop before the balance. But it's hard to say.
Oh, okay, so he got rid of the Badlands. I wasn't expecting that. I would have thought the scrub would have gone away.
Guess that means there's no more trolls in his hand.
Okay, swing away with the factories. Brings Rob down to 15.
I mean, he does have room to wiggle, and
One thing I got to give props to Rob for is that every time that his life total changes, he brings his die to the middle of the play area and then changes it there so that we can see it, and so that his opponent can see it as well. It's nice. Yeah, good sportsmanship on his part for that. Another thing too is for the stream, I've zoomed in Rob's play area. Brian can actually see Rob's dice, whereas I made it so that the stream couldn't, so that you could see more of Rob's play area.
Factory swing. Now Rob has 3 cards in hand still, or is it 4?
4 now. All right, there's a bolt. Three cards now.
It was a interesting sequence because like he still can't land tax, right? So like you have to kill the factory, but it really sort of neuters what he's got on board.
Yeah, It is unfortunate. Alright, so there's a city. So they're both at land parity right now. So... Alright, there's a hippie. That brings Brian down to 11.
Still some really good pressure he has on the table.
Some of the nuances that people have when they're playing on webcam, I love it. You know, when you're playing face to face, you know, sitting at the same table, you know, sometimes you can play quick and you can still catch what's going on, but on webcam you gotta slow down a little bit. You gotta announce what you're doing. You gotta do certain things, and you know, this courtesy that the players are showing is really cool.
Yeah, always trying to like leave your hand face up. I try and like spread them out so they can see how many cards it is. But I think everybody I play gets really frustrated because I just always ask how many cards I have in hand like every turn.
Yeah, I ask a lot too, and then I'll have opponents say, "Hey, if you're gonna ask me, just tell me how many cards you have." Also, when you ask me, it's like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll do that."
Yeah.
And then you see what Rob's doing right now. He's put a die on his hand to show that he's got 3. Yeah, he's got a die on the vice to show that Brian has 4. All right, so assuming something's going to happen here because he picked up his hand.
Divine Offering. So they came in.
There we go. That's a nice play too. I mean, I'm sure he would have liked to have Divine Offering on that Chaos Orb at some point. But
yeah.
There's the Sedge Troll.
So he's already played his wheel and his balance. He's probably... He doesn't have a lot of high value cards that can sort of like switch the tide of this game now.
They're talking about COP Reds in chat, and then said I used 2 COP Reds in my Orcish Artillery deck. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Spirit Link, man.
Mm-hmm. See a lot of COP Reds and Orcish Artilleries in Alpha 40 since you can play 6 Orcish Artilleries. So.
And it's only 2 mana, right?
Correct, yeah. That was something I wish I would have picked up when they were cheaper. Now they're $400.
Oh my god. I know I have a couple of those guys laying around, but couldn't tell you where.
Alright, so Rob's going down to 12. Brian's still at 10.
Yeah, it's hard to think how Rob gets out of this, to be honest with you, because I don't think he's ever going to get to tax.
No, the only way he's going to get to tax is if he strips his own lands.
Yeah.
Alright, Swords of Plowshares, that's a good one.
He keeps getting the answers, though. I guess there's a world where Brian runs out of stuff and a lowly lion will get there after the first, orb takes out one of them. Have we seen the orcs this game?
Haven't seen the orcs this game. I think he might have sideboarded them out because we didn't see them last game either.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, taking another point to play a hippie. Rob doesn't have an answer immediately. Lion. Oh no, swords. Okay. Alright, so Brian's up to 14. Rob's down to 12. But no threats on either side of the table. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Hits just keep coming.
Mm-hmm. You know, it has been. There's been some nice back and forth going on with some stuff going on each side. So, okay. Well, there's a Land's Edge. 3 cards in hand for Rob. So in theory, that vice should never become a factor now.
Right. And again, like I just don't see how the Land's Edge get. I think that making that extra land drop really hurt Rob. Because I don't even think Brian needs to get rid of the Land's Edge at this point. Like I think he can just let it ride.
No, because I think that Brian can take advantage of the Land's Edge probably just as much as Rob can, because Brian hasn't been playing lands. I don't know if he's not drawing them or what, but one thing is that Land's Edge is reciprocal, so it's a world enchantment, so anybody can activate it. Another swords, wow.
Because if you can't draw threats, it's good to draw answers.
Right. Might as well. Makes it harder to kill the opponent with direct damage, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you're running all these sorts of plowshares and stuff, and you cut your dudes, you're really on, like, the land tax Land's Edge win condition. And that's getting harder and harder for him.
Well, that's a way to do it. Discard 3 lands to deal 6 and then bolt you.
What a game.
And that's the game. And that's the match.
That was a good back and forth, though. That was really enjoyable.
It was.
Great decks. Just great decks.
They were evenly matched decks, and I really like the gameplay back and forth between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
That was that's the double-edged sword with playing Land's Edge, is that you can win some and you can lose some, and then there's going to be those times where the opponent is going to play it right and they're going to hold on to the land so that you can't tax, exactly what Brian did, and it worked out for him because he was able to increase that clock exponentially there with no threats left on the table. So all right, so I'm going to bring it into the players, and we're going to
probably not play the Land's
talk
Edge
to
at the
them.
end there, but I was hoping to outrace you. I didn't know that I'd get another chance, but I was hoping to get a strip mine and hit my own land and then go off. But yeah, I probably should have held that.
Yeah, it would have lasted a bit longer.
Gentlemen,
I mean,
those were some good games. Appreciate that. Nice back and forth, even when things looked a little rough in several of the games for both of you. It was back and forth, and I'm glad that you guys put on a good show for everybody, and you guys were able to answer each other's threats and whatnot. So I got to talk about those Hymn to Torox, though, in that third game. It's like, wow.
Yeah, that was pretty fortunate, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what you want to see with this deck is a jet in the opening hand, and I had the jet and the hymn, which gives me a huge leg up. And the only way he can draw out of it was with the Wheel of Fortune, or the balance, which he had both. So that got him back in the game, made it relatively close.
So let's talk to you for a moment there, Rob. What, if any, changes would you make to this deck given the same restrictions and given what you know now?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I think I've been on this list for quite a while now, so I feel like it's pretty tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
The only real question is your main board vices versus main board hate. So you can go, I've got 4 vices in the main board, which is great against control decks.
Mm-hmm.
Good on the play, keeps the aggression going. Those spots could be like 2 bottles and 2 blood moons, which gives you, a further leg up against a lot of decks in the field, because it can function really well with bottles. It can function well with under a blood moon. So
Right.
it's really, a choice of if you want to go aggression or do you want to go on hate.
It's like the Library of Alexandria is the only thing that your deck has for Arabian Nights cards, correct?
Precisely, and you can use your bottle to get under tax with it, so it's
Yeah.
kind of techy.
Nice.
Gotcha. So, DK says, thanks for the stream and thanks for the games, guys. Good night. It's 2:20 my time. Well, I appreciate you joining the stream and watching and contributing. Brian, we'll go to you. Same question. Knowing what you know now, if you had to make any changes, what changes do you think that you would make to your deck?
Yeah, I mean, I played around with this list quite a bit. I think the easiest things to play around with, I mean, the Shivan Dragon I just like, so I don't think that actually belongs in the deck. But I think quite literally every match I've sideboarded it out. I just don't have enough red to support it, and it's just a fun card that I like, as you can tell with the playmat. The Suchis, I think, probably could get turned back into orders. I've been playing around with both of those, but this format's just far too fast. The Suchis seem to be much more of a liability against a lot of the burn decks.
But I mean, we were talking. We like how you diversified your threats in your main deck there. Having a couple of pro white guys, having the Suchis, so that it would make, even with open deck lists, it would make sideboarding a little bit tricky. For your
I think
opponents.
so. I mean, the Suchi, the mana base in this deck is pretty poor for kind of modern day standards, but the thought for me was, at least I can always cast a Suchi off a Soul Ring. I mean, the Soul Ring doesn't do a whole lot in the deck, so I think you could even potentially cut that from the deck. There's just so many colored symbols in the deck, but still, it's I think it finds its place.
Jerry Guy in chat says, from world champion to NEOS champion, got an awesome button with a gold star on it, and I'm sure it'll be right next to the world championship trophy on his mantle.
That's right. I got the trophy on my mantle. My kids are watching in the family room.
Nice.
The things on the shelf. We'll put the NEOS trophy right next to it.
90s MTG stopped in to say hello. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate again your patience with me, with allowing me to come back from vacation and get settled before we did this, and allowing me to stream, especially working with me on the date and the time. Friday night's a good night for Magic anyway, so I'm glad that we were able to do this. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Anything else you guys want to say?
No, thanks for having us.
Thanks.
This has been a fun experience, my first stream.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks so much, Rich, for hosting this. It's been great, and thanks Brian for the games. That was a fun matchup. I was really looking forward to. So
yeah,
awesome.
it was fun to watch. It was entertaining, and there was a lot of back and forth, and I think the viewers liked it too. So I will I'll have the video
Great
up. It has to be on Twitch for full 24 hours, but it'll be on YouTube tomorrow evening. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Bye.
And with that, I would also like to thank Seth, my co-host and co-commentator tonight. We had a good time with some back and forth banter and talking about these decks. So and the matchup. So thank you for that, Seth. For those again who are new to the stream, please don't forget to follow. You can join me each and every week for my regularly scheduled stream. I play 3 rounds of Old School Magic with the Northern Paladins every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So don't forget to follow. Turn on those notifications so that you know when I go live. Tomorrow evening at 10 p.m. Eastern, I will be playing a 7-point singleton match, my first match of the month of March in the 7-point singleton league. And then I do have another match also on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's 7 p.m. Central European time. So if you guys could tune in for that, I would definitely appreciate that. So with that, I want to say thank you all for being here. I hope you all have a great night. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I will see you next time. So take care.